While the truth about her marriage to Arthur Tudor, Prince of Wales, would remain a mystery for centuries, there was never any doubt that Katherine of Aragon's second marriage to his brother, Henry VIII, was ardently consummated on their wedding night in June 1509. The king was 18 when he married the Princess of Spain and received a large dowry, as well as international prestige. The king was highly fond of Katherine to begin with, and according to him, she was the most beautiful creature in the world. She was 5 years older than Henry at the time, who was 23, and she was plump and pretty with striking red gold hair that hung below her hips. Once the marriage was consummated, the pair did not struggle to conceive. Katherine had already adopted the pomegranate, a symbol of fertility since ancient times. Per the royal rule book of the era, Katherine must have a child, a male child, to be the heir to the throne. On the 1st of November 1509, a proud Henry broke the good news to her father, King Ferdinand. The public announcement of the Queen's pregnancy gave rise to great rejoicing in England, for the birth of an heir to the throne would secure the future of the Tudor dynasty and remove the threat of civil war. On the 31st of January 1510, Katherine went into labour prematurely with her daughter at about 6 or 7 months pregnant. Her daughter did not survive and was stillborn. This was not uncommon at the time, however it was considered a great calamity, and Katherine suffered a strong sense of failure because she had desired to give the king and the people a prince. Having given birth to a stillborn child, the first of the king's legitimate children, Katherine was profoundly shocked and tormented with guilt. She was so ashamed that she did not inform her father of her loss until days later, where she noted her loss was the will of God. Again, the pair did not struggle to conceive, and on the 25th of May 1510, the pregnancy was once again declared. Katherine carried her son to full term, and soon after midnight on New Year's Day 1511, Katherine delivered a prince to the great gladness of the realm. In honour of the occasion, bonfires were lit in London and free wine flowed in the conduits and in the churches. The infant was christened Henry, with very great pomp and rejoicing. The king and queen's heartache was not over after the loss of their first child and daughter, and again they suffered a great loss when they were informed that their son had died at 52 days old. Henry made no great mourning outwardly, but the queen, like a natural woman, grieved deeply. Henry spent a lavish sum on the funeral of Prince Henry, who was buried in Westminster Abbey. On the 30th of September, Thomas Wolsey reported that the Queen is with child. However, it is alleged that the Queen had suffered a miscarriage or a false pregnancy, and no more was spoken of this. She fell pregnant again when Harry went to war with France in June 1513. But in October, while Henry was still away, Katherine was delivered of a premature son who died shortly after birth. Henry began to feel bitter that he had lost 2 male heirs, one to infant loss and one to stillbirth. By July 1514, she was pregnant once more. But again, in December, the Venetian ambassador in England reported that she had borne a stillborn male child of 8 months, to the great grief of the whole court. After the loss of another heir, the Queen was blamed, as women often are, and she was accused that she had brought forth an abortion due to the worry and excessive discord between the two kings, her husband and father. Because of her excessive grief, she is said to have ejected an immature fetus. Katherine was already out of favour, and it was evident that Henry's love for her had cooled. She had suffered such tragedy and embarrassment in failing to produce a living heir for the king, and approaching 30, she had lost her youthful bloom and her figure. However, she did conceive once more, and on the 18th of February 1516, she gave birth to a healthy daughter, the future Mary I. History would later nickname her Bloody Mary for the number of people she executed for heresy while ruling as Britain's first female monarch. Her last child was conceived in February 1518 when she was 32. The pregnancy was kept secret, but in July, when Henry arrived at Woodstock, Katherine greeted him at the door of her chamber with her evident pregnant belly. Henry was so delighted that he gave a great banquet to celebrate. He knew by now that a happy outcome was not an ensured thing, but a thing wherein I have great hope and likelihood. On the 25th of October 1518, it was reported that within a month, or rather more, the Queen was expecting her delivery, which was looked forward to with great anxiety by the whole realm. Tragically, such hopes were to come to nothing yet again, for on the night of the 9th and 10th of November, the Queen was delivered of a daughter, to the vexation of everybody. Never had the kingdom so anxiously desired anything as it did a prince. The baby was weak and died before she could be christened. Katherine of Aragon gave birth 6 times. Her first child, a daughter, was stillborn. In 1510, Katherine gave birth to a healthy son named Henry, who tragically died 52 days after he was born. 2 more infants were stillborn, and another, a girl, died within weeks of birth. Only 1 child survived to adulthood, a daughter named Mary, born in 1516. Please comment, like and subscribe if you wish for more stories, and leave your suggestions below and I will endeavour to cover them.